Steve Jobs or McKinsey? Who makes the better slides and presentations? In this video, we will talk about that. Hi everyone, my name is Johannes. I'm a strategy consultant, and on this channel I share my thoughts, learnings and experiences about consulting, mindset and business. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe to it. Also leave a thumb up. This would really support the channel. And today we have an interesting question. We talk about the presentation style of Steve Jobs and the presentation style of McKinsey, and we will talk about which one is better. So to start off, let's take a look at the different presentation styles. So if we take a look at some slides from Steve Jobs, they look the following. So those are some screenshots from I think product introductions, and here you see a slide, just for an example, where he shows some market shares, and the iPod 74% and others 26%. So a very plain slide, just a very simple graph in the middle. Also, he talks about the iPad, and then on the left side he shows the smartphone, so the iPhone, on the right hand the MacBook, and you want to say that the iPad is right in the middle in between. Also a very lean, a very plain slide. Then this is a bit fuller slide compared to Apple standards, where we on the left side have an image of the iPhone, and on the right side we have some data and some information. So as you see, a very plain design, very simple, simple illustrations, very little text, easy to understand. If we take a look at some McKinsey slides, on the other hand, then we see that they are very busy. So here we have a comparison. We have on the left side global payments revenues. On the right hand we have growth decomposition. You see a lot of numbers, a lot of graphs, some text, so it looks very complex. Then here we have a more text heavy slide where we see 4 buckets, then some bullet points on the right hand, some a conclusion, again very text heavy, a lot of information. And on the last slide is also a McKinsey presentation. Here you see a kind of a timeline of certain events that McKinsey expect to happen. Again, very busy, a lot of lines, also some kind of icons that make the slide look much more fancy, a lot of different colors. Again, very busy the slide, so a lot of information. And if you compare those two types of slides, you see that there are huge differences. Steve Jobs, on the one hand, was always very plain in design. His main concept was simplicity. On the other hand, those very information-heavy McKinsey or consulting slides, because it's not only McKinsey, of course, all the other consultancies do similar slides. So very, very different types of slide building. The big question is now, which kind of slides is better? And the answer is, there is no right or wrong. It highly depends on the purpose of the presentation. Steve Jobs was always known to put a very strong focus on the presentation itself. And this means that he put a strong focus on the emotional part of the presentation. So the main goal was not that the people took a look at the slides. The main goal was always that the people took a look at the presenter and try to listen to the story, because that's where you can transport all of the emotions. And typical meetings for that are if you have town halls where you speak to a lot of people, if we have product introductions like Steve Jobs with the iPhone, also maybe if you do a pitch, a sales pitch, then it's very often not about the information on the slide. It's more about the presenter and the story that the presenter wants to tell. And that's the reason why those slides, if you have more emotional slide decks, while the slides are very, very lean, very little information on it, so that the audience can completely focus on the presenter. On the other hand, we have the McKinsey slides, and they are very often for the purpose of documentation. So here you don't have to focus on the emotional part, you rather have to focus on the rational part and on the documentation. So this means that the slides have to be able to be sent around to people who didn't attend the meeting, and all of the information has to be on the slides, because you want to make sure that even if people were not attending the meeting, that they fully understand the content that you want to transport during a meeting, for example. And typical examples for such slide decks are, slide decks for important board meetings like steering committees. Also, if you prepare some concepts, some strategies, something like that, or if you made an analysis, maybe you conduct a market analysis where you put all of the information on the slide deck. This is where you focus on the rationale, and this is where you have very busy slides with a lot of information on it. Nevertheless, those slides of course need to be structured, but this is a completely other topic. But there is a lot of information because the main purpose of the presentation is the documentation. So as you see, Steve Jobs was always very emotional, and sometimes in consulting you also do some slides that look more like Steve Jobs slides, particularly if you want to prepare a communication document, for example, for the management board. So there you have that slide design that Steve Jobs used, but I can tell you it's like 5 to 10% a maximum, okay? And like 90% of the slides will look more like the McKinsey slides, because here the focus is more on documentation, the analysis, and the rational part of a presentation. So to conclude, there is no right and wrong. It always depends on the different styles, on the different purposes. Do you want to talk more about the emotional side and focus more on the presenter? Then you'd have a leaner slide design like Steve Jobs. If you, on the other hand, want to focus more on the rational side and on the documentation part, then your slides have to be more busy, like we typically do it in management consulting. Of course, I want to know what kind of presentation style you like the most, so please leave it in the comments below. Also, if this brought value to you, then please leave a thumb up and subscribe to this channel. And with that being said, I wish you a very successful day. Hope to see you soon. Goodbye, Johannes.